Queen's Park Rangers is going through tough times. The club is struggling in the bottom of the championship and has only started winning after losing the first 4 matches in a row, with a stinging 7-1 defeat away at West Brom, standing out as the lowest part of the season so far. Welcome to Genpres, a football podcast normally done in Danish. Sometimes I do an English version when all my interview victims speak English. This is one of them. I do that so you, dear listeners, don't have to do as your forefathers and try and understand Danish. I'm in West London at Shepherd's Bush Green, about 15-minute walk from my old flat. I'm visiting QPR, a club with a lot of Premiership history, but now in a bit of a rush, to put it mildly. The club has agreed to pay £42 million for stepping over the lines of financial fair play. £70 million is a fine, £3 million in legal fees, and £22 million back to the owners because they wrote it off against the rules. I'm now meeting a couple of die-hard fans at the Green Pub, close to Loftus Road. Jeremy Gardner, who's the vice chairman of QPR Supporters Trust, and Paul Finney, who runs a podcast about QPR. So I'm here with Jeremy Gardner now. Paul Finney is on his way, but this is London, and the tube is stuck somewhere, as it is. It has to be done here. Thanks for meeting me, Jeremy, and Paul will join us in a minute. So 4 defeats in the first 4 matches. How was that?
Yeah, it was pretty bad. What it brought to mind was Steve McLaren's reputation as a good coach, but not necessarily a good manager. But also, we were a pretty young team and pretty naive looking compared to some of the other championship teams that came along.
How much did that 7-1 defeat hurt?
Lots. I think that was one of the worst defeats. Obviously, it was one of the worst defeats in our history.
And also in the second best league, not even by Liverpool or Man United.
Exactly. So that really did hurt.
But you've kind of bounced back a little bit. But I mean, how bad is the current crisis on the pitch? It's picked up a bit now.
Yes. What McLaren has been able to do is to bring a couple of what looks like very good loan signings in. And we started the season having got rid of a lot of players and having the team being relatively young, not having the guile of many of the more experienced championship teams. Now, through loan signings, we've added a couple of much more experienced players. And I think that will allow the younger players to up their game. So I think it's actually looking fairly optimistic at the moment.
And who are these players that are bringing the game?
One of them, I can never remember his name.
I don't remember names either, don't worry about it. And they come and go in these leagues.
Hamed from Brighton and Chadley, who's on loan from Burnley.
That rings a bell, that name.
Yeah, he's been around a little bit.
He's been in Europe as well, hasn't he?
Not sure.
I might be confusing him with someone.
Not sure. But both of them, you can immediately know where the goal is. And one of the problems with our younger, less experienced players was they could do some lovely movements side to side and around the pitch. But when it came to actually getting the ball in the net, we were lacking. So they've really added something to the team, and they're allowing talented younger players like Freeman that we've got to play well again.
Do you think even after the horrible start, you can bounce back?
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, Wells said that he was thinking of playoffs. Is that a bit of a bold statement after losing 4 games in a row?
Yes, it is. But this is a funny league. And if you, I always think that actually it's your performance after Christmas that really counts. And after Christmas, you often see teams really making progress. And it's getting to the playoffs is actually about impetus and getting momentum rolling. So I think it's possible. Having said that, we still have a fairly thin squad. We haven't faced too many injuries yet. So, but why not? There's room for optimism.
While we wait for Paul, let me ask you about this league, because I think it's a bit of an underrated league. I think money-wise, it's one of the top 7 or something in the world, and on the pitch, it's very fast. I mean, how do you like? I mean, you've watched the team for many years. You've seen many seasons in the Premiership. How do you compare those two leagues?
Plainly, the quality is better in the Premiership. Sometimes in the Championship, you can make a mistake in defence and not get punished for it.
But if you play Salah, you get punished.
Exactly. If you're in the Premier League, almost invariably you'll get punished. But in this one, you can get away with it from time to time, which makes it actually, it can be extremely entertaining and it's great fun to watch.
And how, one of the things I hate mostly about modern football is all the bloody diving, to be honest. I'm a Wimbledon fan. I remember watching a lot of games in League 2, and if someone died, everybody would boo, even the team, the fans supporting them. What is that like in the Championship?
It's bad.
As in a lot of diving?
There is. In some of those earlier games that you mentioned, one of the differences was our team was overwhelmingly younger players who wanted to get on and play the game. If we went 1-0 down to a more experienced Championship team, then it was remarkable in the last half hour just how often they fell over and were injured. That unfortunately is a part of this league, that the experienced teams know when to hold up play by falling over.
I'm sure I'm not offending you by saying that you're not the youngest person in this pub, so you've been watching the team for many years. How has that changed, that attitude?
I think I'm seeing more of it, but as you point out, I have been going a while, so there may also be that I'm seeing the past with a slight,
romantic,
yeah. Exactly. But undoubtedly, in those days, tackles did crunch in harder than they do now.
I remember speaking to Preben Elke, former Danish national striker from the 80s, where he was saying that he was quite envious of the strikers today because they're very protected. Yeah. When he received the ball at the sideline and he had his back to the pitch, he just knew he had to jump to save his legs because otherwise he'd get murdered.
Yeah.
Maradona had his legs broken. And they don't do that to Ronaldo and whatnot.
No, and in this league, there's plenty of trips, but not and mistimed tackles, but not efforts to. However, tonight we're playing Millwall, so we'll see.
Yeah, I was about to say some of the clubs in this league have gone European. The ones you mean tonight have not.
Correct, and in this division, it is great when you've got two sides playing who both want to play open football. But of course you don't get that because a lot of the teams really know their limitations, and that includes Millwall. They know their limitations and they know that they'll want to push through rather than use the silky skills that they don't have.
I've seen many games in Millwall because I do trips for Danish fans. I've seen many games. I've never seen what I would call a pretty football match. It's rough, and it's I mean the cheers for a tackle or a throw in are sometimes as big as a goal. It's a difference. And what's it like in QPR? What kind of football do you play now under the current manager?
Well, one of the issues also in the first few weeks is that McLaren definitely changed the style. And he's trying to get the team to play a passing from the back style. The only thing is, I'm not entirely certain that we've actually got the skills to do that.
You don't have the players for his tactics, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And certainly the first few weeks, one of our frustrations was he was expecting the players to play to his plan rather than him looking at the strengths of the players and saying what's the best way to get these people to play. I think things are changing, but as I say, it's still early days. But the new players will certainly help and will give people confidence, because I think a lot of the players' confidence was drifting away in the last few weeks.
Well, and what's the atmosphere around him now? Because I'm guessing after 4 defeats it wasn't great. What's it like now?
It was getting extremely quiet.
Sorry, big man.
Don't worry about it.
Oh, yeah.
Big man. That was a nightmare.
It's funny because I was just chatting to Jeremy and then realising you and I have met before.
Yes.
Yes,
we did.
Because I had the name written, I had Chris written down, Chris, and I thought that was the guy I met. Then when he said you're Northern Irish as well, I went, hang on a minute, I think I've met Paul then.
That's my nephew, by the way.
Bit of a slightly embarrassing story is when I was looking through the files of QPR fans, I found one name, and I thought it was the guy I met 5 years ago when I worked for a Danish TV station, and I rang him and he gave me a number for a guy called Paul Finney who's just walked in, and it turns out that Paul Finney I met before. Anyway, Paul Finney's walked in now, and as I just mentioned, I've met him before, and one thing I remembered about Paul was that he doesn't drink a beer, only drinks cider. So I don't know why. I don't remember that.
Gluten-free first world problems.
Gluten-free first world problems. So anyway, welcome, and we've gone over a few things. Probably something you don't mind not talking about the first 4 matches anyway.
I don't really understand Jeremy's accent.
Yeah, I don't think we're worried about his accent, but
Is mine stronger than yours?
Yeah.
Do you think so? Yeah. Okay. I don't think it is. Carry on.
anyway, we've gone through the first 4 matches, which I'll spare you the horror of going through them again. Because
That was at West Brom. You can't spare me that.
I'll ask you. Well, how was that? 7-1 West Brom.
Vile. It was horrible. It was just disgusting. Just the biggest surrender since I don't know. Just I've seen for years. It was horrible. It's a football match you never want to see a football team do. It's like walk out with a white flag at the first minute to the last minute and just no sending offs, no real bookings. You're losing 7. You want to see players getting booked. You want to see players getting sent off. You want to see someone given actually.
Someone gives a fuck.
That's the word I'm looking for. Yes.
We can curse on this. That's fine.
Not walking off the pitch, kind of like glancing at the way fans and shrugging your shoulders. That's not good to me. And I want the manager to come over to the fans as well after a result like that and talk to us and explain what his tactics were, not just dander off down the tunnel. If nothing happens, you lose 7-1. Your manager, your board, your players should be held accountable. That's my opinion.
In Italy, they'll rip your shirt off the fans sometimes. For that.
They did in Belfast.
Did they?
Oh yeah. You lose a big 2 match, you're in trouble. Am I right or wrong, Jeremy?
Correct.
Thank you.
Which match is that for our Danish listeners?
Well, I'm a Glentoran fan, and if we lose to Linfield badly, you'd be sacked. It's unacceptable.
Speaking of sack, Steve McLaren, 4 matches in the beginning, not a great start. What's the atmosphere around him now? What's it like now?
Over to you, Jeremy.
It's been pretty low. The crowd has been fairly quiet up to now because we haven't been seeing football that made any sense. It'll be interesting to see today, especially against Millwall. But my guess would be as the team starts to play a bit more coherently, and I think the lone players he has undoubtedly added to the strength of the team. I'm hoping the atmosphere will build. If we feel we're in front of a team which knows what it's doing and wants to do it.
The weird thing is, it's about QPR. We started the season, the last couple of seasons, going like, it's about youth, it's about going forward, forgetting about spending money. And then to save ourselves from getting relegated, we've had to spend a whole lot of money on these Premier League loan players, like 2 strikers and probably about 40 grand a week. Combined fee, a guy from Stoke who's going to be in a big fee.
It's a lot of money in the Championship, isn't it?
Again, still, yeah, it is. To then say that we're going to finish 14th, 15th when you spend that sort of money, it's nonsensical, because by doing that sort of thing, you should have had a plan for the start of the season to go for promotion. It makes no sense to do it after 4 or 5 games and think, do you know what, this is a bit crap. We're going to have to change things here to stay in this league. That's the sort of money you spend to go up, not to survive the Championship. But I think McLaren had that all along. He came in, no one. The kids probably weren't good enough. I feel sorry for Smith and Samuel, because I think they deserve to go. And Chur, them 3 kids I feel sorry for. I think of all the kids, they deserve to go in the first team, and they're going to be binned now for 3 players that will come in and leave it in the season, whether we like or not. There's no long term.
It's survival, basically.
It's survival, but it shouldn't be.
But it's been consistent year after year. It's been consistent that we've been inconsistent, changing direction during the course of the season. One minute we're going to bring through the youth, next minute we're bringing experienced players in. There's been no consistency year after year, and that's something we really need to build as a club.
That sounds like a structural leadership issue, which we're going to get back to later in the podcast. But quickly, is he the man for the job?
No.
There you go. That's a nice to the point. Welcome back to Genpres. I'm in West London doing a podcast about QPR, a club with issues both on and off the pitch. But also a renowned history in English football, club with even though small, very noisy ground, pretty central in London. In your own words, what kind of club is it you support? What kind of football club is it?
It's a community. QPR is a very much an Irish football club in London. It was working class Irish that came over in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s and 90s and converged on Notting Hill, Western Park. That's why we're all here, because we've got a great affiliation with Ireland. Shoreditch Bush is an Irish area, and QPR is probably in London per fan the most Irish club in London. And it's also got solid roots in the working class community. But also, we do things that are different. When we're skint, we got our buckets and we buy players. We stop mergers. We care, like most fans will care about the clubs, but we have actually done things to stop things. And what's changed people's view, I don't know if you agree, Jeremy, in the last couple of years, is spending loads of money. We've become everyone's favourite cult club to kind of like, I hope they feel because they spent way too much money and they should be doing this, they should be doing that, and people want us to feel more than they want us to succeed, and that was never the case with QPR before, because we were much better than that, and we're a proper football club. I love it. It's the best club I've ever supported.
I want to hang on to the Irish connection. You were in Northern Ireland. You're clearly, you both come from Northern Ireland. You said one of the clubs with the biggest Irish following. Is that both from north and south of the border?
Well, no, it's more of a when you come to London, you've got Kilburn, you've got Notting Hill, you've got Ladbroke Grove, you've got West Brom Park. They're all Irish areas. They're all places where people came to Paddington to work on the railways, to work in the cotton mills in the avenues, which is Harrow Road, and stuff like that. So it's a huge Irish area where people came together. Immigration is a horrible word to use.
Does religion play a part here, Catholic and Protestant, or is it a mixed?
Both. Okay. What it is everyone now is very pro to be anti-immigration. But immigration is not actually a bad thing, because when people immigrated from Ireland, they came here, their community was built around football clubs, and QPR was part of that community. They brought the Irish together, brought many people together. West Indians came to QPR, a lot of people came to QPR and felt connected to it. So I would like to think as a community, we're still doing that. We're still bringing people together, like we did with Grenville and many other things. We don't care about just being an English club. We're a worldwide club, and we bring everyone in.
When I moved to London in 1982, there were, I lived in a street, the other side of which was nearly all Irish railway workers. And the week we moved in, there were QPR flags out in the street, 1982. And I thought, this is good. I like this street.
So, would you, if you compare to other clubs, London clubs, would you regard yourself as a big club or a small club?
No, we are a medium-sized club that often punches above our weight. You know, through creativity, through particularly getting some players of real skill and personality in, and team spirit, we often punch above our weight.
Do you like that being like an underdog?
Well, we were the original Wimbledon. For years we had a small budget, we had a great youth structure that could bring players in, we had a great eye for letting Sinton go bring a Sinclair in. God forgive us, we lost Rodney Marsh, we brought Stan Bowles in. You know, we had a great knack of replacing players at the right time, bringing players on, but that goes back to being well run. We stopped doing that a few years ago, as in we then went for, he's played for England, he's played for Brazil, he must be good. We lost our way, we lost our identity a wee bit.
But even more recently, I wouldn't put him in the Bowles category, but Adel Taarabt. Now again, a player who could not play consistently for any other team he's ever played for, came to us, and at that time we had Neil Warnock as manager, who kind of sorted him out or knew what to do with him, and he was superb, by far the best player in the championship.
Give him responsibility. He said you're wearing this team on your shoulder and you're carrying them, and that's what you're going to do. And the rest of the side saying, we know you hate him, but for God's sake, he's our best player, don't think we'll hurt him. And it was typical Warnock, wasn't it? Adele's playing for himself and the team's playing for him. It worked.
So it was, don't give him the ball in the defensive half, give him the ball in the attacking half.
Though, there's a bit on YouTube, if you look it up, I think it was against Swansea, where he got the ball from about 35-40 yards and passed it to Routledge, but then scored a fantastic goal. But actually it was a cross path. It was basically chested down from the defence, side of the foot, 45-yard pass, and that's the kind of player he was. This is Chris from the podcast as well, by the way. Sorry. And that's Chris, a friend of mine, just spoke up. But the thing is, that's what we are as a team. With someone like Adele, we had Wegley, we had Simon Steinrod. We were able to put all these players together and make it work. I'm not sure if Steinrod would have worked at Arsenal. He's definitely would have worked at Chelsea, but he worked at QPR. Why that is, I don't know. But they seem to work in this part of London better than they would have done anywhere else. I mean, Andy Stinson wouldn't have been the player he was, and wasn't the player he was when he was here, when he left. So there's got to be something in that. There's got to be a reason. Is it the closest to the stadium? Is it the tightness of the fan base? Is it the magic of the lights? No one knows, but we do bring out the best of players who maybe aren't as good as other ones.
And I think there is also something about us not being one of the big clubs, which means the club can focus and can support players who would just get lost in a bigger system.
No, you're right.
How strong are your rivalries with the local? Well, you got Fulham. That's a big rival, isn't it? Or is it not really?
Chelsea.
I think Fulham seems to think it's you.
They can if they want. It's up to them.
It's two clubs in Hammersmith, Fulham, the same borough, but it doesn't really matter to you.
They're annoying.
Well, three. Chelsea are in the same borough.
I mean, Chelsea really.
Yeah, they are. The ground is.
I know. You know, they've had the Abramovich money for a long time.
He'd move the borough line if he could.
We did used to beat them 6-0, 4-1. 3-0 on a regular basis in the 80s.
But do you have strong rivalries with Chelsea then? Or?
Yeah, it's mainly Chelsea. I mean, Fulham are annoying because they've got the weirdest fans in the league. Brentford, funny enough, Brentford's a traditional rivals. If you're going to go back to the 50s and 40s and 30s, traditional rivals Brentford. But I absolutely detest Chelsea, and I'm going to speak for myself. But I think they are Satan in a football kit.
And Fulham have weird fans, is it?
Yeah, they're just weird, just bizarre, way too posh, got strange ideas. They have clappers, I need popcorn. Go to the theatre, don't go to football.
It's a I will admit I know some quite decent Fulham fans, but they're old. So I think it's a combination between the old stagers who are still there and have been there through thick and thin.
They're proper.
Absolutely, and some it's a very prosperous area now, and their lack of fan base actually indicates that.
Yeah, but the thing is that you say that, but because they're doing quite well and we're quite expensive for what we're offering, we need to be very, very, very careful. Brentford's getting a new ground. Chelsea are always going to pick up tourists and fans because of what they're doing.
Yeah.
But we need to be careful that we're not suddenly turning into the smallest of the West London clubs.
Absolutely.
And we need to be careful of that, and we need to price accordingly to what we're offering sometimes on Saturday or Tuesday or Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Because we are quite expensive and our ground is getting quite old, and we need to be thinking, how do we hold our community together? Because it's not a football club. You bring a family. When you came to QPR, your family came with me. When I came, my family came with me. My daughter's family will come with her. It's what you do. That's what we do for a football club. But go about rivalries. Brentford hate us. They're annoying. They beat us all the time now. Fulham hate us. They're annoying. They beat us a lot. But the real passion is for beating Chelsea. You can never ever take away the 6-0 when we beat them. I was just on a high for 2 years after that, because that was just so wonderful and so brilliant to do that to them, and knock them out of the League Cup. Didn't go so well in the final, but we knocked them out in the way.
As you said, don't end up as the smallest club in West London. That takes money. So let's dive into what's been an issue in QPR for a while. I mean, the whole financial fair play slap of £42 million. I mean, how bad is that for the club? It can't be good. If you shrug, how can you shrug over 42 million quid?
It's something that we can't control as fans. You kind of like, I've seen us go out with buckets, and I've seen us having to save our club to put money in the meter to keep the club taken over. So then to have an England World Cup goalkeeper, a Brazilian World Cup goalkeeper in the same squad was a mindfuck. And it's not the QPR that I know, and we just got absolutely. We were an agent stream. Fernandes came in with all the right intentions, but he was starstruck. He was ambitious, but he wanted names. He wanted to complete his Panini World Cup album of 1996. Sadly, then players weren't as good as they were in 1996, 2000, whatever, and it showed a lot.
Is that where the money went?
Yeah, agents, players, and basic wages, and we got nothing to show for hundreds of millions of pounds, nothing.
We've been financially mismanaged for years. That includes the most recent few. Well, that includes the last 8 years. And the board made dreadful decisions during that time to spend money that we couldn't possibly be justified on players. Having a chief executive who knew nothing about football for many years, and who just had no knowledge of how to run a football club. So the reason why one of the reasons why Paul kind of shrugs is that the board say, don't worry about the financial fair play fines, we'll cover them. Now that...
Will they?
Well, exactly. If they're here for another 10 years, then that will be covered. If they stay for another 10 years and stick to their word.
But if they walk away, you're fucked.
Yes.
Would we wonder? We will cease to exist. We can't go on as a club because we won't have the finances to cope with that. Now they say they're going to write the debt off. That's why it's wrong. But we have no proof or evidence, unless you know more than me, I know more than you, to say that yes, we are debt free. The fans think we're debt free. No, we're not. I don't think we're debt free. I think we're still £300 million in debt. And until that clears up, and the financial fair play is another 25 million on that. To be honest, the only blessing is the transfer embargo. We can't spend any more shite money on players, so we have to make it do with what we've got. We've got to make them last.
Is QPR a prime case of mismanagement for an owner that doesn't know much about football and going in?
I'm not personally, I'm not sure the foreign ownership is actually relevant, because we've had some pretty incompetent British owners in the past. You know, we went into administration after one British owner, again enthusiastic but naive,
and again ripped up by agents.
Not knowing how to run a football club, not understanding the football business. Very good at other businesses, but so personally, I don't think it's specifically about foreign ownership.
This is generally bad management.
Yes, but it is
Regardless of
about,
nationality.
it is about owners who naively jump in to own a football club without any understanding whatsoever of the football business.
And what do you think, if you look into the future, we're going to round out the podcast now, is QPR going to be saved? Where do you see this club in 10 years? What do you think?
I don't even know how you can see take QPR in 10 months. It changes so rapidly. Over to you.
I think we'll still be around.
We have to be.
Yeah, the supporters are there, and I think there's enough goodwill in the community. I wouldn't actually mention, because Paul said about we're a community club. One gleaming example of fantastic work linked by the club is we've got a QPR in the Community Trust, which does fantastic work in the community, supporting young people, supporting older people, supporting education. Fantastic projects. So I think we have built up goodwill in the community as well. And I think, we're going to have a tough few years, there's no doubt about it. But I think we will, it sounds like I'm about to burst into song, I think we will survive.
We have to, because without the fans, football is nothing. Without football, the fans have nothing. But most importantly, we've got to bring the QPR that we know and love to our next generation. Forget the money, forget the debt. We're all going to give them the QPR that we know and love. And that's the most important thing.
I hope you make it. I hope you survive, as you said. We will survive, and that is all.
Beat Chelsea again. Beat Fulham. Beat Brentford. Get cup run. You want Irish players?
And I come along with my son, who first came here when he was about 7, and now he's 30 odd.
You're an evil dad.
And absolutely, it's a form of child abuse.
Of course
I've said
it
that
is.
to other people. But the tradition carries on.
That is how it's supposed to be. That is all for this week's Genpres. I'll be back with other English versions down the line. You can hear a handful. I'm not going to try to say the website. Just Google Genpres and then podcast, and you'll find us. So you can find it Genpres on your whatever app you use for listening to podcasts. Thank you.